My name is Maria. I gave up everything for my family, my career, my dreams, my future. I was 23 when I got the call that my mother had collapsed. I was living in San Diego at the time, freshly graduated with honors and 3 job offers waiting for my signature. All from publishing firms willing to start me at $110,000 a year. But I didn't even hesitate. I packed my bags and flew home to Mexico the same night. I told myself it would only be temporary, just long enough to help Mama recover.
Temporary turned into 10 years.
And in those 10 years, I buried my ambitions under hospital bills, late-night shifts caring for Mama, and endless errands to keep our crumbling family house standing. The same house where I was born, the same house I kept alive with my bare hands. I fixed broken pipes with YouTube videos, bargained with electricians who treated me like a child, and sold my gold earrings to keep the water running through the worst of the dry seasons. At first, they praised me, my aunts, uncles, cousins.
Maria is so strong, they'd say. Maria is the rock.
But rocks are stepped on, forgotten, taken for granted. 10 years later, they didn't see the woman who'd held this family together. They saw a woman past her prime, unmarried, worn down, left behind. And then came Camila. My younger cousin waltzed back into Mexico last month like she was royalty returning from exile. She'd spent 6 years in New York, funded, I might add, by our uncle's money, which he'd borrowed from my mother's inheritance. She came back with a fake American accent, designer sunglasses, and a man named Ethan glued to her side. He was tall, pale, with a jaw so sharp you'd think he shaved with broken mirrors. He barely spoke Spanish and treated everything in the house like it was contaminated. They moved into the family home, my home, with a sense of entitlement so arrogant, I couldn't breathe. "It'll be better for everyone," Camila told me. "We're renovating it, modernizing it. You'll love it once it's finished." I watched them paint over the mural in the courtyard, the one Mama had started when she could still walk, each color a memory of her youth. They tore down the wild jasmine vines I'd grown from seed and replaced them with an American brand herb garden. They fired Don Luis, the gardener who'd been with us for 20 years, and replaced him with some bearded boy from Guadalajara who spent more time vaping than watering. And still I said nothing, until they moved me out of my bedroom. Camila knocked one morning, all fake sweetness and perfumed breath. "Maria, Ethan needs a home office," she said. "Do you mind moving into the guest room? It'll be temporary." The guest room, the one behind the laundry closet. The one with no windows and a bed like a prison cot. I moved my things without a word. But something in me cracked that day, not loud, not violent. Just a deep, clean split down the middle. Like ice before it shatters. That night, Camila found me in the kitchen scrubbing a pan. "Maria," she said with a smile, "you don't mind helping out a bit more, right? Ethan's very particular. No garlic in the food, and you're so good at taking care of people." Taking care of people, that was what I did, wasn't it? I clenched the sponge so hard my nails tore through it. I smiled at her. I didn't scream, I didn't spit. I just looked her dead in the eye and said, "Of course." Because I was done playing the burden. I was done being their helper. I had been the quiet one, the one who sacrificed. But I hadn't survived 10 years of silent suffering without learning how to plot in the dark. They didn't know about the job offer I had turned down, not just any job, but a publishing executive role that came with a relocation bonus and a condo in San Diego. They didn't know I still got emails from that company's CEO, who called me the one that got away. They didn't know that while Camila was playing rich girl in America, I had been building something else. Something stronger. They didn't know about Diego. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years. The last time I saw him was at Mama's funeral. He stayed after everyone else left, handed me a USB drive and said, "If you ever need to disappear, or make someone else disappear, call me." Back then, I thought it was a joke. Now I understood what he meant. Diego had once been a coder for a tech company in America, until he exposed a corruption scandal and vanished. People said he lived in Merida now, quiet, off the grid, with eyes in every system and access to information most people couldn't even dream of. I once helped him escape a police raid by hiding him in my mother's sewing closet for 2 nights. He owed me. So I called him. His voice was low like gravel. "Didn't expect to hear from you." I need information, I said. Everything about Camila. About Ethan. I want to know what they hide behind their smiles. There was a pause. You want revenge? I want clarity, I said. And I want to watch them drown in it, he laughed. I'll get started. I ended the call and went back to the kitchen, scrubbed the same spotless pan, and stared at my reflection in the silver. I didn't see a broken woman anymore. I saw a woman sharpening herself, because they forgot who I was. But I remembered. And I was about to make them remember too. The next morning I woke to the sound of Camila's laughter echoing through the hallway, a loud, high-pitched noise like broken glass being dragged across tile. She was in the kitchen, probably standing barefoot in one of my mother's old robes, as if she'd earned the right to wear it. The scent of imported American coffee reached me before her words did, bitter and smug, just like her. I moved silently, feet cold against the terracotta floor, careful not to let the rage bubble too close to the surface. She was standing at the kitchen island, oat milk in one hand, scrolling through her phone in the other, like some privileged queen of a kingdom she hadn't built. When she saw me, her face lit up with that poisonous smile she always wore before slicing into someone. "Oh, good morning, Maria," she said, as if I were the hired help. "Ethan's shirts are wrinkled again. Could you iron them before noon?"
He has a Zoom call with his American partners, and, well, appearances matter, you know? I smiled, slow and polite.
My hands itched for something sharp. "Of course," I said. My voice smooth, calm. Let them think I'm powerless. Let them mistake my silence for surrender. She tossed me a bundle of stiff, expensive white dress shirts as though I were invisible. No thanks. No acknowledgement, just a flick of her manicured fingers. I took them to the back garden, where the old iron sat waiting on the rusted table beneath the lemon tree. The same lemon tree I once read under, years ago, when I still believed the world would reward good daughters. I laid the first shirt out like a corpse and pressed the iron down until the steam hissed, my anger released in bursts silent and scalding. They thought I was weak. They thought they could bury me under their lies and pretty things. But they forgot. I learn in silence. I survive by watching. And I never forget. That night, when the house went quiet and Camila and Ethan retreated to their air-conditioned bedroom, I made a call. Diego answered on the first ring. "You only call when you're ready to burn something down," he said, his voice gravel and smoke. "Something like that," I replied, staring at the moonlit lemon tree. "Still about your cousin?" he asked. "No," I said, cold and sure. "It's her golden god, Ethan." There was a pause on the line, the sound of a keyboard clicking softly. "You want me to crack him?" "I want access. His accounts, his emails. Everything he thinks he's hiding in the States. I'll need 48 hours. "You've got 24. He didn't argue. He never did when I used that voice. By the next evening, Diego sent me a folder. It was encrypted, of course, no paper trail, no trace. Inside were screenshots, PDFs, account logs, and more dirt than I could have dreamed of. Ethan, the clean-cut American fiancé, the man who looked down his nose at our tiles, our markets, our air, was a fraud. He wasn't just broke. He was bleeding debt, over $75,000 in credit cards. A rental in Manhattan he told everyone he owned, and fake investments he sold to rich idiots under the name Wellsworth and Crown. Sounded British. Sounded expensive. It was fake. All of it. Worse, he had laundered money through offshore accounts in Belize and claimed a Mexican tax exemption using Camila's address. Illegal. Dangerous. I smiled for the first time in days. That Sunday I made brunch. Chilaquils, fresh orange juice, fruit cut into neat triangles. I placed a mimosa in front of Ethan like a good hostess. Camila was mid-story about some Manhattan brunch when I slid a brown envelope across the table and said, "I found something you should read." Ethan picked it up, lazily at first, still chewing. But as he flipped through the pages, I watched his face go pale. 1 page, 2, 3, his hand trembled by the 4th. Camila leaned over, curious, until her eyes landed on the numbers, the accounts. "The wire transfers. What is this?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Your future," I said. "Unless he leaves this house tonight." Ethan stood, voice raised, false confidence dripping from him like sweat. "You wouldn't dare expose me." I stood too, taller, stronger. I sacrificed my life for this family, I said. I've dared worse. I buried my mother while you were sipping wine in Brooklyn. Camilla's mouth opened, but no words came. She knew. Deep down, she knew she had brought a parasite into this house. She just didn't want to admit she was too arrogant to see it. You'll regret this, Ethan spat. No, I said, picking up my plate, calm as glass. You will. They left that night. No police, no shouting. Just a quiet storm of luggage dragged across tile. Ethan didn't even look at me as he left. Camilla gave me one final glare, her eyes full of hatred and disbelief. Good. Let her hate me. Let her burn with it. Because it wasn't over, not yet. Camilla wasn't the type to lose quietly. Her pride was loud. Her revenge, I knew, would be slower, more poisonous, like smoke under a locked door. But she had no idea what I was capable of now. What I've become. They thought I was nothing but the girl who gave up her life. They were wrong. I was the woman with the knife behind her back, the ghost in the walls, the storm in the distance. And I wasn't just getting revenge. I was taking back everything they stole from me, piece by piece, silence by silence, until they stood with nothing but ash in their hands. The house had never been so quiet. Ethan was gone, vanished like a bad memory scrubbed clean from reality. He left with the suitcase, his face pale and tight, eyes empty of the arrogance he'd once walked in with. Where he went, I didn't know, I didn't ask, and I didn't care. Diego made sure there were no traces left behind. No financial records, no legal proof that he'd ever existed in Mexico. Even his smug Instagram account was scrubbed, like the world had decided he wasn't worth remembering. But Camila stayed. At first, she locked herself in the master bedroom. I heard her pacing at night, muttering to herself, crying sometimes, or maybe just screaming without sound. But soon she began to reappear, slowly, deliberately, like venom soaking back into a wound. She clinked her wine glass louder than necessary when I passed her in the hallway. Rearranged the living room furniture in subtle ways, moving a chair 2 inches, flipping a cushion, always marking her presence, always saying, "This is still mine." She started making phone calls from the courtyard, speaking low, hushed, but not low enough. I heard the words she wanted me to hear: my house, inheritance, betrayal. Like a performance meant for an invisible audience. But her anger wasn't grief. It was strategy. Camila wasn't the type to collapse. No. She'd been raised by snakes and silver. Her father, my uncle, taught her how to bite through a smile, how to bleed someone politely. So when the call came 3 days later from my Aunt Teresa in Los Angeles, I wasn't surprised. "Maria," Teresa said in that saccharine tone I despised, "Camilla's been through a lot. And I think it might be time you found something more appropriate, somewhere smaller, more modest. She needs space to heal. You understand, don't you? After all, it was her father who allowed you to stay there all these years. Out of kindness? That house. The same house I slept in on the floor while my mother recovered from surgery. The house I kept standing through collapsed roofs, leaky pipes, and an infestation that nearly destroyed the kitchen. The house I mortgaged to save my mother's life, while they were sending Camila tuition money to study creative business strategy in New York. I stared at the wall, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself breathe. But my voice, when it came, was calm, cold. "No problem," I said. I hung up without saying goodbye. And then I called Diego. "I want it legal," I told him. There was a beat of silence on the other end. "Then, you want to take the house?" "No, I want to take everything she thinks she owns. You'll need to go for her name." That's where they always hide their power. I need documents, wills, birth records, proof of contribution. Anything with blood on it. That night, I tore through the dusty filing cabinet in the study. I pulled out every folder, every receipt, every forgotten envelope. Hours passed before I found what I needed: my uncle's revised will, signed just 1 year before his death. Equal shares. He left the house to both of us, 50-50, but she never mentioned it. Not once, because she thought I would never read between the lines. That I was too loyal, too tired, too broken to fight. She thought I'd just keep mopping her floors and boiling her garlic-free soups like some spineless shadow. She forgot that I was the one who'd paid off the remaining $180,000 mortgage when the bank came for the house. Not pesos, pounds, money I wired in over 5 years through freelance editing jobs and ghostwriting. American novels under fake names. She had the family name. I had the house. And now I had the proof. I filed the lawsuit the next morning, quiet, precise, no drama. No warning, just cold, sharpened law. 2 weeks later, the court summoned her. She tried to pretend she wasn't afraid. Walked in with lipstick too red for the occasion and heels she couldn't balance on. But her confidence cracked the moment the lawyer laid out the paperwork in front of her. "Miss Camila," he began, "you have no sole legal claim to the property. Furthermore, Miss Maria has documented financial investment exceeding £180,000 into the estate, including complete repayment of the mortgage." He paused, then finished the sentence like a hammer dropped on marble. "She is legally entitled to no less than 75% of the property's value." Camila didn't cry. Not at first. She went stiff, pale, like the blood had retreated to some safer place in her body. Then the disbelief set in. "This is absurd," she snapped, her voice cracking. "This is my house." I said nothing. She turned to me. "Maria, you're doing this to me? After everything I've been through?" I looked her dead in the eye. My voice didn't rise. It sliced. "You thought I was your servant," I said. "But I was your shadow. And blood knows where to cut." She packed her things that night. No tears, no apology. Not even a glance in my direction. Good. I didn't want her guilt. I didn't want her regret. I wanted her absence. She slammed the door as she left, and for a brief moment I felt peace. But revenge is never clean. It doesn't come without cost. Not when family is involved. You can win, you can bury them. But the wound never really closes. It stays warm under the skin, waiting. And I could feel it that night as I walked the halls alone, that cold, crawling awareness that someone else had been watching. Because you don't burn people like Camila without lighting a signal fire. And someone in the dark had seen the flames. The house finally felt like mine. No more Camila's perfume clinging to the curtains. No more Ethan's leather laptop bag tossed on my mother's dining table like it was his own. Just the rhythm of creaking wood, the hum of an old ceiling fan, and the lemon trees whispering outside my window. I walked barefoot through the hallway, the tiles warm from the sun. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost inside my own life. I had one. Or so I thought. The first sign was small, a missing ring. It had belonged to my mother, a delicate silver band she'd worn on her thumb since before I was born. I always kept it in a carved wooden box in the bedroom, beneath some scarves and an old envelope. It was gone. At first, I told myself maybe I'd moved it and forgotten. But I don't forget things that matter. That ring was the only thing I kept from Mama's hospital bed when the machines went silent. The second sign came 2 days later, drawers slightly ajar, papers out of order, a faint perfume trail in the air that didn't belong to me. I began to feel watched. Like the house was holding its breath. Then I came home one night and found the front door wide open. No broken lock, no shattered glass. Just open, like it was waiting for me. I stepped inside, heart pounding, and found it, carved directly into the wooden kitchen table, deep and ragged. "You stole what was mine, Camila." She had come back, or worse, never truly left. I checked the security camera feed, blank. Every recording from the past 4 days was wiped clean, not corrupted, erased. Only one person could have done that. I called Diego.
His voice was tight, defensive. "I didn't help her, Maria."
"But someone did," I said, pacing the living room, staring at the table like it might come alive and strike me. "Someone with your skill set." "There are more of me now," he admitted after a long silence. "You're not the only one who makes enemies with money and rage. She must have found someone through the black market. Or paid enough to make someone betray me." I felt it then, the fear. The cold, familiar feeling that crept in like fog under a locked door. The kind of fear I thought I had killed the moment I exposed Ethan and crushed Camila in court. But it was still alive, hiding, waiting for its name to be called again, and it had heard me whisper hers. But fear only lives where plans don't, and I had plans. Because my revenge had never been a single strike. I didn't believe in just one knife to the throat. I believed in chess, in sacrifice, in letting my enemies think they had won just before I took the board away from them completely. Months ago, even before Ethan showed his American teeth in my home, I had started preparing. I had Diego draw up backup deeds for the property, one registered in my name only, stored on an encrypted drive locked behind 5 passwords and a biometric key. I made a call to a lawyer in Mexico City and signed an insurance policy under my name alone. The policy covered fire, theft, vandalism, and yes, full destruction. That the real move? I had moved money, quietly, strategically, $85,000 in pounds, transferred through a dummy consulting business I created, all routed to a bank in London under a name only Diego and I knew. Camila could search my accounts forever and never find a single dollar she could claim. The house? She wanted it, she could have it. So I left. That night, I packed a single suitcase, my passport, my mother's last letter, the encrypted hard drive. I locked the doors, turned off the lights, and walked away without turning back. The house stood behind me in the dark, like a monument to war. 2 weeks later, I got the call. "Maria," said my neighbor, Clara, her voice shaking. "I don't know how to say this. The house, it's gone." It burned to the ground. The fire spread too fast. Nothing left but stone and ash. I thanked her, calm, cold, almost grateful. Camila had moved back in 3 days earlier. She probably walked through those doors smug, certain I had run away like a coward. Maybe she even brought wine. Maybe she lit one of those pretentious soy candles from New York. They never found the source of the fire. The investigators said it may have started near the kitchen. Some faulty appliance, but I knew better. I knew the smell of Camila's rage, and I knew the price of pushing her too far. But no, I didn't set the fire. I didn't have to. I don't burn homes. I burn legacies. And by the time the ashes cooled, I was already gone. I arrived in London with the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing left to lose, and everything left to build. The air smelled different, like possibility. Like new pages waiting for ink. At the bank, I wore a navy coat and my mother's silver ring, a duplicate I had commissioned before the original went missing. "My name is Maria," I told the banker as I slid the documents across the counter. "I'd like to open a publishing firm." He nodded politely. "Of course, what kind of books?" I smiled. "Stories about women who survive and then destroy."
He raised an eyebrow. "That sounds intense."
"Oh, it is," I said. That afternoon, as I walked out onto the wet London pavement, my heels clicking like a metronome, I felt light, not happy. Not safe, but free. And freedom, after all I had survived, was the only true revenge that mattered. They took my time, my love, my roots, but they could never take my fire. I didn't cry for the house. I didn't mourn Camila's pride, Ethan's lies, or the family that let me rot in the background. Because I had never been the background. I was the hand turning every page, the storm in every quiet scene. And now, finally, I was the author of my own story.